Hi, we are at the amazing winery Casa Emma in Tuscany, and it is just such an education. Look at this beautiful, these rolling hillsides. It's in Chianti region. It makes Chianti Classico and a host of other wines, which we're about to taste. Yum. And you can really see, I think this is just so typical Tuscan scenery. The cypresses in the background, umbrella pines, and there's hectares or acres, that's their measurement, of vineyards, all belong to this small but really thriving organic vineyard and winery. And I just thought you should get to see it. Unfortunately, a little cloudy today, but they love the rain. In fact, it was interesting to learn that you can't irrigate here. It's actually illegal to irrigate here because then the irrigation will cause the roots of trees and vines to retain water. And they don't want that because it makes the wine watery. So super interesting stuff. And I know it will be it's so inspiring, and I know it'll be some great backdrop in the novel. Oh my God. I love this vineyard so much, but meanwhile, the video is great. But like, what is going on with my eyes? I have to tell you, I just had the worst jet lag, and I look like those black goldfish that have the big bulgy eyes. Like, it's very, very sad. But this is really, really cool installment of our little series because it's about a lot of things. First, it's about food and wine, which I want to take a moment to show you more of the vineyard because unfortunately it was kind of a crappy day. But when you pull up, this is what it looks like. Now, I think you can see it. Really gorgeous, all restored. You know, it's not like a new building. It's a restored, and this is very typical Tuscan. It's called Alborese stone. It's found only in Tuscany. And that's what I'm looking for I'll tell you what I was looking for was the physical elements of the region from Tuscany and specifically Chianti, right? That's what I go in for. And then, as I said last week, you get these little surprises that you manage to use in the novel to give it real depth. Here's another picture. And here's a detail that I didn't get to tell you in the video, but this is the back of the vineyard. Isn't that beautiful? You can imagine it with the sun. But you drive around Tuscany, and this is what it looks like. All these rolling hills, all these vineyards, beautiful. And this thing here, you might be wondering what that green tarp is. Well, we go there, right? Me and Laura, and we're looking out this balcony, and we hear all this honking, like, well, there's geese that live there because this vineyard, like many there, is organic. They will not use pesticides. Yes, love the authenticity of their restoration. Love it. And so the geese eat all the bugs and they live under the tarp. And I thought that's interesting because basically I'm writing a novel. It's about the headline of what the book is about is that a young woman named Julia inherits a villa and a vineyard in Tuscany, but she doesn't know who's given it to her. She doesn't recognize the name of the woman, and she doesn't know much about her own birth family because she's adopted, and sadly her adopted family has passed. So she's really going to Tuscany to learn about her own identity. And she finds herself, and I kind of use this, if you take a look at this, I kind of use this as a model for the vineyard in the book. Only imagine it really overrun. And the geese, with the tarp over the geese is all like falling down and there's no geese in anymore. But then what happened is, so part of what is interesting is you're trying to use setting and understand how setting figures into a novel. And I will tell you that I have never, ever, ever had such a wonderful confluence of setting and plot and first, the thing to tell you is that Laura and I went to the wine tasting because we're in Chianti, right? Here's what it looks like. She's actually a vintner herself. Her name is Noemi. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to a wine tasting, but I never had. But it was sort of something because in truth, I'm not like a wine freak, and I kind of have my wine that I like, which is Lambrusco. You know, like everyone has their thing they know how to order, and that's my thing, right? Which is also such a dorky thing, but I don't know what to tell you. I like it. Francesca says it's like, juice box, but it kind of is. So I'm like, I always sort of went there going, I don't know if I like Chianti. I'll give it a try. Okay, we go to this place, this vineyard called Casa Emma. It is the most phenomenal. I've never. This is a bottle. Okay, this is one of the things we had. It's their Chianti Classico. And the first fun fact I want to teach you is you do you see this black rooster on the top? Okay, so you've heard that in France there's a place called Champagne, the whole province, and champagne, real champagne, only comes from Champagne, the real thing. That is true in Tuscany as well. Real Chianti comes from Chianti province, where I was. So this wine was grown at that vineyard. And we had it, right? So and we do the wine tasting. Here's what it looks like. The woman puts, and she's teaching us all. There's like several different types of wine, including the fanciest one that I just show you, which is reserve. And look at this feast. She puts it out with food, right? Look at this. I love to eat like this, just fresh cheese, different types of cheese, a little bruschetta, a little purple cabbage, right? And it's just, and then what we did, and also chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? And basically, you sip the wine, each different type of wine, and then you taste the food, and you start to understand the difference in the food and how the wine interacts with the food in your mouth. My mouth is watering now, to create incredible flavors. The same was true with the prosciutto and the other cheeses. Now, I'm not a meat eater, but I did have the cheeses, and they're fantastic. And I'll tell you the other thing is the other fun fact that I wanted to teach you about. The other thing we had there was Tuscan bread. How wonderful does that look? I love bread. Oh, there's my baby girl, Francesca. This is terrific bread. And the interesting thing, other fun fact I want you to learn, is that Tuscan bread does not have salt. That has been historically true. And it was even mentioned by Dante in Inferno when he said, you will not like the salty tastes of other breads from other regions. And the reason for that, at least the myth is, and I want to tell you another myth too, but I don't know that it's a myth. The idea was that way back in the medieval times, if you remember, the woman in this book begins to think that she might have some connection to Caterina Sforza, a Renaissance duchess, right? But back in the Renaissance and back in even a little before that in medieval times, salt was very, very expensive. And the rumor is, or the stereotype is, that the Tuscan people are a little cheap. So they couldn't afford, or they didn't want to spend the money on salt. So they said, well, we'll just make our bread without salt. Now that is so interesting because when you taste the bread, you taste that it's not that salty. And I kind of love salt. But what's so cool is that all of the cuisine that is Tuscan that has come to make up for it is highly salted and highly flavored, which is kind of a great way to eat. Like you can do it a lot of different ways, and you can see the way it interacts with the Chianti. Now, the Chianti is made only, real Chianti is made only from Sangiovese grapes, which are grown in Chianti. And you see this little black crow I started to tell you this. This is a really cool story that we learned too. And I thought this was so interesting because what I was starting to hear, all right, let me tell you the story first, then I'll tell you why it matters. So why it is real Chianti, only real Chianti is allowed to have a black rooster. Here is the reason. And it is part of the history of the region, which is that Florence and Siena were provinces right near each other in the Middle Ages and going to the Renaissance, and they couldn't agree about their borders. They fought over the border. What they decided is one day we're going to have a contest. We're going to set the border in a way that we both agree on. And what we'll do is this. Each night, a knight from Siena and a knight from Florence will ride from his hometown. And they will ride, and where they meet will be the border between Siena and Florence, so we'll stop fighting over it. But what we'll do is the rule that we're making is the knight who's going to ride out to determine the border cannot leave until the first rooster crows. So the story goes, the people of Siena had a white rooster, and they just loved him up, and they gave him a lot of food, and they took very good care of him, and he was very, very happy rooster. The story goes, this is the medieval story, that the people of Florence were smarter, and they said, oh, so we'll get a black rooster, and we'll put this black rooster in a crate. And we're not going to treat him so great, sadly, because I have chickens and I love them. We're not going to feed him very much. And so they didn't. And 3 days later, their plan worked because their rooster crowed first because he was so cranky and so hungry. And the Florentine knight rode out first. So he covered the most ground and the border was born, giving Florence the advantage because they were mean to roosters. That's the story. And that is the reason why real Chianti Classico has this rooster on it, which is so cool. It was fun. It was such a wonderful trip because basically, this is the fun part. Then I'll tell you why it matters in the book. I'm not a big drinker. It's also noon, and you see that I'm jet lagged. I can't even. We're drinking this wine. We're totally drunk. Meanwhile, we're very happy. I'm taking notes. I can't even read them later because I'm like too drunk to write good. And then while you're there, they say at the end, you want to buy some wine. Of course you do. You want to. I'm a very happy drunk. When I drink, I start sticking my tongue in people's throats. I buy things. I'm handing people credit cards. I'm tipping like crazy. And I think it's the real me, honestly. But in any event, we fill out the thing. We don't really notice what the wines cost. We get it. They're going to mail the wines to our house. Great. Laura gets a bunch. I get a bunch. We get there. The bill was $900, which, by the way, was only about, I think it was 5 bottles of wine a piece. What is the deal is that, and I don't want to make Casa Emma look bad because they're great. But this bottle of wine, when we got home and sobered up back at the hotel and looked on the website, this is €100 bottle of Chianti. Now, I'm going to tell you that's a lot of money, but I'm also going to tell you I don't regret a penny of it. I couldn't believe the taste of this Chianti. When they sent it here, Francesca will tell you, we had it for Thanksgiving. Also, this is a huge bottle. Like, I don't know if you can tell or you're a big one. This probably how many milliliters it is, but who cares? It's like a barbell. It's really incredible. So I actually think it was great value. And we drank the other four, and they're amazing. But try really good Chianti. This was the best Chianti Classico Grand Selection. It was to die for. And just make sure you don't get too drunk before you start handing out your card. Now, why does this matter to the unraveling of Julia? I'm sitting there and I'm soaking in all this atmosphere. And I go, this is so interesting because you are setting a book in a place that in itself relates to food. And you know, I love food. And I think food really matters, especially in a novel. As I said, this is a woman who's trying to put a home together and in a way is searching for family. She's searching to find her birth family. And when you think about what food means in our lives, right? I love food, but also food means to me when I serve somebody, when Francesca comes home, I love her to death. I'm going to make her favorite food. She has some great dishes she'll make for me. Families have food. They have recipes. There were so many wonderful recipes of in Tuscany, and I use them, not the recipes in the book, but I use the food in the book. I'm going to put the recipes up on the website too. That food is so intertwined with family really everywhere, right? I always talk about my mother's gravy. Francesca will tell you about my mother's gnocchi. You probably remember baked things your mother made. And food is about family, and it's about love, and it's about support. And I thought this really works so well. So here's Julia going to Tuscany. Her adoptive mother has died. Her husband has been murdered in front of her. She's reeling. And in a way, this setting itself grounds her. And the setting is grounded in this beautiful, bucolic area, but also in these wonderful, have some wine, because they drink it there like water. Nobody gets blitzed on it. This is what you drink to appreciate your food more. It's all organic, as you saw, the geese and everything like that. It's harvested by hand. And here's Julia, and there's actually a cook at the villa that she rents, and she's rather inherits, and she eats that food. And there's a motherly connection she has with this woman who makes her that food, because if somebody feeds you to me, you feel mothered, right? Whether they're a literal mother or not, or if they ever had kids. Why do you think I feed my dog so much, right? I love it. So it was really a wonderful way that here I just stumbled into this research. Well, let's see what this is about. But it had a lot of, it has and had a lot of resonance for me at the time. You know, in these videos, we're talking about what's the inspiration behind the book. And in a way, Chianti was a huge inspiration, not just because the book is a setting, physical setting of Chianti province, but really because all of the food of the book and all of the delicious wine and the several different dishes and the way this is the novel's imbued with food from the region. My mouth waters talking about it. That it really gave me an extra layer that I would not have had if I hadn't gone there. And so that's the purpose of research. And besides the fact to see something wonderful, and I'm so glad that I could show it to you, and you could see how beautiful this vineyard was. So Casa Emma was wonderful, and their wine was worth every penny. So that's the education part of our show. Now, moving on. I was very happy to get there are lots of wonderful authors that I love. One is Fiona Davis, who wrote The Stolen Queen, wonderful historical fiction, which I'll tell you about in a minute. She was very kind and loved The Unraveling of Julia. And if you will permit me to be completely immodest, oh, Maria, I love fried zucchini flowers too. That's my favorite. Let me read to you what Fiona Davis, best-selling author, said about The Unraveling of Julia. The latest by Scottolini has it all: a shocking murder, a crumbling Tuscan villa, and a heroine forced to rise above her grief after a tragic loss. Scottolini deftly weaves a touch of astrology through this fast-paced thriller, and the result is a stunning novel that will leave you breathless. Isn't that wonderful? Thank you so much, Fiona. I really recommend her book. For people who love historical fiction, this is perfect historical fiction. And I love historical fiction because it has dual timelines. There's a New York set one that's a little more modern day where it's a young intern who works for Diana Vreeland in the fashion industry, if you remember her, the head of Vogue, and also an Egyptologist. And somehow these two timelines come together, these two women come together, and it's really, really a very cool cross-time story about female friendship, and the plotting is superb. So I really recommend it. I was very, very happy that Fiona really liked Unraveling so much. And thank you very, very much for coming, and I'll see you next Monday night as well. Take care and stay well. Love you guys. Bye-bye.